Hello everyone, welcome to Every Woman and Her Dog, where we talk about the things women whisper about in kitchens, voice note to their friends, and think about at 2 a.m. I'm your host Joanne Lea, coach, therapist and change maker. Each episode, we explore the realities of womanhood and cover topics ranging from identity shifts, feminine cycles, to leaderships, relationships, burnout and ambitions, bringing to the surface the quiet reinventions happening behind closed doors for women. This is the being and becoming of personal agency. So let's get into it. Welcome to today's episode. I'm joined by Katelyn, Kristy and Carissa, three women who have generously agreed to unpack this topic with me in real time. There will be wisdom, there will be reflection, and possibly a little calling ourselves out, which honestly is usually where the growth lives, hey? Before we dive in, let me introduce everyone. Over here on my far left, I have Katelyn. Katelyn is from TaylorMade Digital Support, a mum of two girls, fresh to the change-making scene, and she is multi-skilled behind the scenes support, helping bring Joanne Lea work to life. To my immediate left here, I have the lovely Kristy Lees from Think Social Marketing, a marketing strategist, a business owner and mum of two boys, navigating growth in business and life while doing the real work behind the scenes. And then in the middle here, I have the lovely Carissa Skrinnikoff, boss lady of Guerrilla Energy and mum of four, leading in business and in home, while navigating ambition, growth, and the juggle that comes with both. Each of these women bring their unique perspective and lived experience to the conversation. So we're in for a really rich discussion today. Let's get into it.
I'm so keen to be here with all of you ladies today. Carissa is actually the reason behind the name of the podcast, Every Woman and Her Dog. In a testimonial that she spoke about Joe, she actually said, every woman and her dog needs Joe. And clearly we ran with it.
We did run with it.
So today we're talking about doing the work and what that actually means. Is it therapy, journaling, awareness?
This is a phrase we hear a lot, constantly, all the time. Mm-hmm. Even in the context of men, women, it doesn't matter who it is, business, we hear, oh, she needs to do the work. Yeah. Or he needs to do the work. Or you need to do the work, yeah? Well, what I want to unpack today is what actually is the work and what does it mean? And therefore, how can you do the work if you don't know what it means? And of course, it's going to mean different things to all of us here. Mm-hmm. And it's about getting that insight from each one of us about what doing the work is, because it seems like this, ominous, vague, or golden light, doing the work.
But what is it?
Exactly. So we're going to unpack that today.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's 100% me. Everyone's always telling me, you need to heal, you need to do the work. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't know how to do it. So what does it actually mean? Carissa, what does it mean to you in your world?
I think doing the work for me has had a lot of different levels, but for me where I'm at now, it's any kind of learning, like engaging in these like activities and the growth, actually implementing it in your life. That's to me, you're working towards becoming and being your higher self.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Kristy?
What does
I think doing the work mean?
For me, well, I think I realised a few years ago doing the work is not linear. And I think very similar to Carissa, there's different levels that come with that. So I would say that 5-6 years ago I thought I was doing the work, but in fact I was just creating awareness about where I was sitting at that time and where I wanted to be, which I didn't have full clarity around at that point either. But I do feel like it's the in-between from learning what the work is to actioning that work and realising that it's not based out of motivation but more awareness of the smaller habits that we bring into our lifestyle and that long-term build-up of those habits to get to where we want to get. That's what I found with myself in particular. It's a lot slower than what I thought and a lot deeper and not linear. At all.
Yeah, lots
Yeah.
of different levels. Just because you work on one thing doesn't mean that's done, and that could then lead you into the next thing to work on.
Oh, 100%.
And
Yeah.
that could be never ending, but that just means, I guess, we're forever evolving.
I like to liken it to the Russian, the Russian dolls that fit inside
Yeah.
each other, the little Bushka dolls.
Yeah.
So, you do the work on one level, out comes the
Yeah.
next step,
Pours out
right?
more.
Now you're ready for the next.
And you live in the next version
right.
of yourself,
Yeah.
and then out comes the next one, and then
So
the
true.
next one, and the next one. And then the closer you get to the smaller doll, the more authentic you're living in your life. So the work looks and means different things at different times.
Yeah, I feel like when I started, I wasn't even aware. It just felt like something's wrong, like something's not quite right. And I just felt like I was drifting and off track. So it's like, and then I started listening to the podcast, and reading, and you do all these things. And then you become aware of, like, for me, it would be like, what's your biggest issue? What's the biggest kind of theme that's coming up? And then you start engaging in that and working through it. And with the last workshop, I was really, really able to take so much away from that. It was honestly life-changing for me. And then once I've kind of feel like I've, found a flow in that, something else starts coming up. I make space for something else, and it's like, oh my gosh, I came in for AB, and then it's like, actually CD, all the other things.
That's so true. Yeah.
How does that sit with you, Katelyn, saying you're not sure about what doing the work is? You're on sort of the other side of where maybe Carissa and Kristy have been. How does that sit with you now that that's been described a little better?
Yeah, well, it seems like I kind of have unconsciously already started doing a little bit of work without actually knowing it. And then I feel like as soon as I step into your And She Rose program, it's just going to explode. And I'll be like, oh, wow, there are so many things.
Well, maybe that's something you could ask Kristy and Carissa, because Carissa has had a different experience. She's done the one-on-one container, the embodied work container, whereas Kristy's done a little bit of one-on-one work, and she went into And She Thrives after that. So, Carissa, what was that threshold from being aware to then stepping into the work? What was that like?
It was so hard. Honestly, it was really hard. Like, the language that we kind of use for me is like plugging the holes. I'm trying to do everything, be everyone, and keep things in a way that I like. I was almost manipulating situations without being aware of that. So it's so uncomfortable to then see that, and it's like we might identify something and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I do that in everything. So then it's like going home and you feel like you've just hit this threshold. You go home and you see it everywhere. Like, I'm doing this everywhere, and it's just like, no wonder I'm exhausted. So then suddenly doing things different and trying to challenge yourself and sort of interrupt that thought pattern of like, I'm doing it again. It feels so uncomfortable. It feels like you're leaving the house with no pants on. Like, honestly, you're like, it's just not what you've known. It's not what it feels safe. It's not what's natural. But each time you sort of interrupt that, it does become easier. And when you see on the other side, hang on, like, everyone's okay. Like, it was like, we're all okay here, even though, I didn't do that. So the actual process was so challenging, but so rewarding.
Yeah. What would be one of your patterns that you did have to...
Okay, all right.
So while we're going there.
I think like I had an issue of trying to control things, like maybe earlier in my life I had felt out of control, those kind of things. So without knowing it, my way of addressing that was cleaning everything. Like, and everything's perfect. I'm talking, you walk in the rooms and there's a certain way that chair sits, like, the hospital corners.
Relatable.
Yeah, honestly, like, everything has a label, a space. But it was so exhausting trying to live in a home that was like a display home, and it was so confronting for me to see, like, I'm not giving my children the space for this expression. And they'll have made their bed. They'll have made their bed, and I'll go, yeah, great, thank you. And then they leave, and I go in and remake the bed because it's not perfect. So realizing I'm invading their space. Like, I'm not respecting their expression and autonomy. And me as their mum, I feel like I try to listen to all the podcasts, read the books, be the best mum and like the most informed mum that I can be. It was so confronting to realize that I was getting in the way of that for them.
Yeah, and a lot of energy
Oh,
going
so
into
much
that
energy.
where there's no benefit
Yeah.
for anybody, really,
Yeah.
and that's just exhausting. We're already exhausted.
Yeah, except I go to bed feeling like, oh, everything's done and I'm in control. I'm safe. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I am exactly the same.
Yeah.
Well, and this is something interesting you say with the cleaning or OCD, whatever you want to call it, and being in control of situations. That's been a major thing that's come out of childhood for me. And I think the awareness of realizing something that feels safe doesn't mean it's good for you, because that's what you've been conditioned to believe.
Yeah.
So when I had kids and couldn't be as clean, I felt out of control. And I had to learn, even though I still have a family that are very, very clean people, that it's what's behind that, why I'm doing that. I still like structure and routine, but I think that's where the awareness comes in, where you start trying to do the work and then you start going, why? Where does this come from?
Yes.
Why am I doing this? And then that's where I think these new levels come out, where you go, whoa, this isn't me just trying to change to be a better person or growth. There is so much under this that I haven't even bothered to look at why I do this. And control for me is a massive thing. But sorry, Mum, love you. But my mum used to come in and clean my room at odd hours of the night, and it was a display home. She's still a very clean person, but people use that for their own.
Well, it's modelling, right?
Correct. They use it for their how they are coping with themselves and their own situations. And I love that you said that you've realised with your children, they're not going to have memories of a messy house. And I have memories of a very clean house, but was it expressive? Not really. So I love that you have tapped into that already, because that is going so much more beyond your own growth, but what your children see and learn from that, because they might not have this situation of control when they're adults. And that's something that you're trying to cut out, which I think is, you don't realise how powerful that is, but it's generational for me.
It is generational, and it's also what doesn't get seen behind the story of the display home.
That's right.
It's I'm not going to bed until 3 o'clock in the morning to get
Yeah.
all of this done.
I love that out,
Because I have a list. That is my list, and it must be done.
And it's the list at what expense?
Yes.
It's perfection at what expense?
Exactly.
And perfection is just an illusion anyway.
Yeah.
But it's teaching women that even though this might have been modelled for you, or that this might have been the perceived concept of control, or that it's giving you stability, is it actually?
No.
Is it really? When it goes under the microscope, is it real?
What's the point of this? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
For sure. And people go, oh, your house is so clean. I used to get that all the time.
Oh my gosh.
And I pride myself on that. But like you said, behind closed doors, it was hard work. I wasn't present. Sometimes, I still struggle with it. And this is the thing as well. It's not, I've made this decision to let that go and it's an instant thing. It's
well, no, it doesn't evaporate like a fart in
rewiring
the air, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
I
does
wish.
it?
No, mine lingers for a lot longer than I expect. But it's a slow rewiring, and like you said, you try and delve into one thing and focus on that, and then it turns into more things that open up. But that's not bad. But it's okay to feel uncomfortable in those situations, because it is change, and you're just so used to, that's just how you do things. And you never question why. Why do I do this? Yeah.
I think I know actually, I know it's helping women to understand that it's okay to be in places of discomfort for the purpose of positive change, of a change that will give back to you, of a change that will bring you to a place where you can go, okay, I'm actually making shifts in my own life. And then, of course, what comes around that is the therapeutic tools, strategies and framework that you need to implement those changes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're flying around like a seagull in the air looking for a chip.
That's right.
Yeah?
Yep.
It's funny though, because you two spoke about like having to have these clean homes, constantly cleaning, and I feel like that's perfectionism. I'm like the opposite, where I'm such a perfectionist. If I can't get, like, the house is not clean. My house is not clean. It is nowhere near clean. There's shit everywhere. I kind of feel like I'm like, well, if my house isn't clean, nobody's coming over. We can't have birthday parties here because the house isn't clean. We don't have the perfect backyard. We don't have the perfect whatever. And it's so many things that we miss out on.
Oh my gosh.
Because I think we've been trained that you must have everything like perfect. Your house has to be clean. I've then gone, well, my house isn't going to be clean. It's never going to be clean. So I just won't have anything.
I'm the
fun.
same. No, again, that is super relatable. There is things I have not. I won't just. I get anxiety over if a girlfriend dropped in, because I have an expectation of myself of like how the house should always look, and I would be like, you have to like plan something with me so I know, and I've got to get through my list. Like, what is that? Whereas the opposite, I will say, if I go to a girlfriend's house and their house is messy, I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
my mentality to other people is, who cares, girl?
Yeah.
But when it's myself, I'm like,
Well, it's those unrealistic expectations. It's like, going and doing sport and expecting to take off clothes and they not be stinky. Of course they're going to be stinky. So that applies to you and it applies to everybody else. So it's rinsing and repeating the theory that applies to everybody else as it does to you. And then getting comfortable and accepting that.
I found something the other day which was harder than I expected, where it's kind of like, my family and friends also would be like, it became something I wore like a badge, of honor, like, oh, Carissa's house is amazing, it's so clean. My mum would be like, oh, you should see her house. Like, it really was something that I sort of embodied as a part of my identity, which is crazy because, like, whatever, anyway. But it was when my family came over, and now I'm operating on a different level. My house is still clean, obvious, not obvious, but I'm going to be honest, like, my house is still clean. It's just not, it's lived in. It's not a display home. There might be a few school notes in a little section on the bench or something, and it was just...
It's real.
Yeah, it was noticeable, and so it was kind of like, oh, you've been busy. Oh, you've been busy, as though like I had neglected
something's wrong with you. Are you okay?
Yeah, just because
minor judgment.
Judgment. Yeah, and it was like my brother even was like, "Your house is not as clean as it normally is," and that sat with me and grated on me, and I felt so like activated by it that it was almost like, everyone get out of my house. I want to clean. I felt so embarrassed and almost shamed by it. And so it was like stopping myself.
Talk us through what come after that, because that's what I'm interested in,
Well, it was just like this thing where I felt embarrassed. Am I like, oh my gosh, have I been letting it slip? Like, have I been lazy? All of those kind of things, the judgment to myself. And then it was like, okay, hang on. Just take a minute. And one thing that I've learned now about myself is I need to take a second to step away, because when I'm elevated or activated and I'm feeling in that, I find it really hard to step down while I'm still there. So it was taking myself away, and even though it was the last thing I wanted to do, it was like, have a shower, have a cup of tea, and feel, and then see how that lands, and then coming back out into my space once everyone had left, I felt like this is perfectly fine. But before I took myself away, I could see everything. To me, it just looked like, and I could see everything suddenly. I was like, there's dust on the skirting boards, like there's a paw mark where my dog has jumped on that, I need to scrub it, the back slab needs to be scrubbed. There was just all these things that honestly I felt like my house looked disgusting. So it was like...
So it's like a bad sitcom, like...
Yeah. Like, literally, that's what I felt like. I was looking around being like, I'm disgusting. Like, I can't believe we live in these conditions. And it was fine. It was so fine.
And so what's really interesting here is, I love that we're in this learning space for a second, is the next step with that, Carissa, is claiming the shit out of it. And next time something like that comes to you, it's like, Yeah, that's because I had unrealistic expectations about how the house should have been.
Yeah.
And I've come to a better baseline with that.
Yeah.
And then they go, whoa, because you go, oh, that piece of clothing you wanted me to wear, that bit of shame, and I'm handing that back to you. Yeah.
I feel like I did sort of say something, but I didn't say it with my chest. I was like, I sort of was dipping my toe in, probably more from a defensive space of like, hey, like, that's not very nice. I'm busy. I'm a mum of four. I'm working full time. Like, hey, But I definitely would love to come to a space where I feel proud of it.
Yeah.
And I think in certain contexts like this, I feel really proud of myself in the work that I've done and
absolutely.
things, but then in other ones, I do feel more challenged. And one maybe other interesting thing was that when my brother and my dad, I felt maybe whether they were or weren't, but I felt most judged by them. Compared to my sisters, or I didn't, they could say the same thing and I wouldn't feel it.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, Kristy, what do you think?
No, and it is, I think, it's that step of recognising this isn't mine to hold. This is your problem.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a me problem. What you've got to say, I don't have to take that on. And like you said, give it back. That's what you want to wear. Well, you wear that. But I do understand what it's like to have that mentality of it's got to be a certain way with family. I actually bought my nan's house years ago, not the house we've got now, and she is a very clean person, and she moved 3 doors up from me, and that house was always looked after, and I was always stressed about it because it was a very big house. But I had this thing that so she's a beautiful gardener as well, and I'm not so much of a green thumb. So the anxiety that came out of having to keep it the same way as she did was very challenging. And I think I love that you kind of understand that space as well, that next step is that you can become proud of that. Some people, I've said this to people before, I'm like, I'm so glad that I can just kind of let my house go sometimes because, and people go, that's weird because I'd love a clean house, but my mental health, that is so much better for my mental health to actually be able to do that, and what that means for me than having a clean house. The fact that I can even allow myself to do that. But I think, what I get out of that is very important to give back what is someone else's rather than go, okay, you've said that to me, but that's not a me problem.
Yeah, I think it's like, as women, I'm sure we can all go here, right?
Yeah.
It's that moment when the period comes early and we have the bleeding breakthrough, right? And you're like, oh my God. And you walk up to someone and you're like, have you got a tampon? Or have you got this? And they're like, oh my God, did you have a breakthrough? And you're like, yeah, but not the type that I like. And then someone's like, hey, would you like me to tie your shirt around? Like, everyone's there to assist and help. And we get that nice community feel. But when you own it, when you're like, oh, this has happened, everyone gathers and gets behind you. But why don't we apply the same theory with, like, I've been under the pump, my house is in a bit of a tizzy. And then the girls will go, oh, hey, do you want a hand with anything? Or do you would like this? It's the shame sits in not owning where you're at and what's going on for you. Because people mobilise behind you, especially women. Women mobilise behind women. And so when we own that, then we're looking at something completely different. And there's no shame in that. There's like, this is how it is for me. This is real. And all of those, like, there's such mixed messaging going on out there. There's so many reels. I know Katelyn and I have talked about this before.
Online, right?
About, oh, hey, I've just done an 18-hour day and I've breastfed.
Good job.
Like, you're going to do 18-hour days anyway with babies because you're up, down, up, down, up, down. But like, wearing it like a badge of honor, like, I should be doing these huge days and my house should be impeccably clean and my body should be the way it was before I had children. And then, and it's layer after layer after layer after layer of disinformation about what's actually possible. And that's living more a masculine life than it is. We live in cycles, as you ladies would know.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would it be the same at this part of the cycle that it is at that part of the cycle? That's unrealistic.
Yeah.
And understanding our cyclical nature,
For sure.
you know, the moon doesn't stay full moon all the time.
Yeah, that's
It has
right.
its peaks and troughs just like we do.
Yeah.
So, it's breaking that spell of this is what should be real.
Yeah, well, my house is a mess at the moment. I've got my period. It's all making sense.
Excellent. You go, girl.
Came in here with my chaotic energies today. But then, in 2 weeks I'll be working out in my pretty season. I feel great.
In your Superwoman season.
That's it, but I'm starting to recognise those cycles where you're like, you know what? I'm allowed to be tired. Or I'm allowed to be slow. I'm allowed to just not worry about this today.
Absolutely.
Because it is beneficial to you long term. If you just keep going against the force of nature, eventually you just exhaustion. And then you've got nothing left. You've got nothing left for your kids. You've got nothing left for your partner. Nothing left for yourself. And I think you just, it's a lot of layers.
And a great place to start of doing the work is knowing your cycle.
Yeah.
Knowing what your cycle is, whether you're on, whether you have a cycle, whether you don't have a cycle, whether you're on any type of medication that stops it or aids it or whatever. No matter what, it's learning your cycle, because even if you don't bleed, you still have a cyclical nature, and learning that men have a very different cycle to women. Men have a daily cycle, women have a monthly cycle. It's completely different. So that's a really good place to start. It's a great tool. Learn about your cycle, track it, know your emotions, know where you're at, and then realise that's a pattern and it's going to keep happening. And the more you fight it, like Kristy said, the worse it's going to get.
Sure. I'm definitely coming into a kind of phase now that I've had the second baby where I'm trying to put myself first and actually listen to the cues. Because with my first, it was kind of like all the background noise was like, you have to push through and you'll be fine. Work, parent, you'll be fine. You'll hate it, but you'll be fine. And then the second baby, I was like, hang on a second. I'm sure we can have a good time here. And starting to learn to be more aware and go, oh, hang on, my body's telling me to rest and calm down. Maybe if I actually rest, I might be more productive.
Correct.
Longer. Instead of pushing through the exhaustion.
That's right.
And then just, I went through 2 weeks of being not productive at all because I just wasn't listening. And then the other week, I was like, hang on, let me take this day and I'll rest. And then I had 2 weeks of lots of productivity.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like it's all coming back to awareness, because that kind of seems to be our little trigger word that we've all kind of been saying today. So coming back to, how do we know if we're genuinely doing the work versus just consuming content? Because we've talked a lot about content. And I love this question because I can't wait to hear your responses. I feel at the moment I'm really stuck in the doing the work phase, because I'm just more aware that I need to do work, but I don't know what the work is to do. So I'd love to hear Jo's thoughts first.
Okay, so the question is, what's the difference between genuinely knowing that you're doing the work versus consuming content?
Yeah.
Well,
And thinking that you're doing the work, but you're just listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
And you're just reading Instagram carousels that say,
At 2 a.m.
be strong. How do I be strong?
Do the work.
Personally, I'm going to be a little biased in this space and say I think everybody needs some type of guide to help them do the work.
Yeah.
And I think the difference between consuming content and doing the work is, what's your lived experience? What's changing? What's shifting? Because I always talk about the 3 layers of learning or change. And the first is, downloading information. So it's obtaining information and digesting it. Then you get to the second phase, which is knowledge, where when this happens, I should do this, right? And so it's not an automatic reaction, but it is there is linkages there, you know, or you'll come back to it and you'll go, this is where I should have applied that, or where this should have happened. Oh, okay, cool. Right, I'll do that next time. So it's not an unconscious practice. It's a very conscious linkage in time. Then you move to the third stage, which is embodiment, when this happens and you go there, or this, like Carissa was saying before, I had to take a moment, I had to walk away, I had to regroup myself, I had to have a shower, I had to do this. She knew what she needed. She's embodied the fact that when something like that comes into her stratosphere and it makes her go wobbly, because we all have wobbly moments, that this is what comes next. And whether that at that point is have a shower and have a cuppa, or go for a walk, or whatever it is, she knows, don't make judgments on myself here, even though I'm feeling these, because I need to zoom, what I call zoom out. I need to zoom out.
Yeah.
Because at the moment I'm zooming in and I'm freaking the hell out of myself. So I need to zoom out, I need space, and then I can go to the next space. So if you're always consuming, and you're gathering intellect, but you can never get past knowledge and into embodiment, then I'd say you're stuck. And it's not that you're not necessarily not genuinely doing the work, because you have the passion that you want to get in there and you want to change things for yourself. You have an awareness that something's not right. Yeah. But you're in a position where I like to use this analogy. If my car doesn't start, I will pop the hood and I will look at the radiator fluid and I will check the oil and I'll check the battery and I'll do all the things that I know that are baseline to see what's going on, what's the problem here. I'll check all of the things I can, but that's as far as my knowledge goes. Once it gets to that point, I'm calling an RMA. Yeah. And then if an RMA can't work it out, it's going to the mechanic shop, it's going to a specialist, right? Yeah. So I see that as how we deal with each baseline we get to. So the first baseline, we go, oh, I'll know this much, then I've got to call an RMA. It's the same with our growth. You get to a certain place and then you know, I can't push beyond these boundaries, I need something more. So whether it's you go off and do a workshop, or you go and see a counsellor or a therapist, or you get a coach in another area and then that work translates into this work, or there's the catalysts everywhere. But being realistic about our limitations as people is really problematic for most of us. Yeah. Because we think it's us and it's about us, we should know everything and we should have all the tools and the skills. But at the end of the day, they only go so far until we regroup, gather up, get a new baseline, and then next time we hit that, we extend our, what we call in the fitness world, our anaerobic threshold. Mm-hmm. We keep going up and we keep getting better at that stuff. We learn more and we can do more. If I went and did a mini mechanics course, I might learn more and not have to call an RMA, and then I'd be able to deal with it from there. But then it'd get to a point where I'd be like, oh no, that's outside of my realm, I need a mechanic. So that's why I say I'm always biased but realistic about how far. And that's the same works for me. I've got coaches and, you know, I see therapists when I need to, when I get to a point where I'm like, stick, things aren't working, pattern's still coming, what the heck is going on, you know? Yeah. And then go on from there. So that's how I would see it. How about you, Kristy?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I'm the same. So I have found that I've done counselling or coaching at different stages of my life when I have felt stuck. So a good example would be, for me, I think I was seeing Joe doing one-on-ones, and then I did a workshop, a retreat, a course.
A course, yeah, a program.
Program. And it's really funny because if I look back on that version of me now, to me, like then to now, oh my gosh, like I didn't know anything, and obviously I still don't know everything. But I look back like, oh, that girl, like she was so stuck and lost, and I've got a lot more kind of going on for me in terms of knowing myself and having those tools. So for me, one example would be I was kind of like, I've got to start doing things for myself. So for example, I always used to like exercising, sport, things like that. So I kind of made a commitment. I feel like crap about myself. I'm going to start trying to go to the gym. I don't like the way I look. So I went to the gym. And then what I realized was over time is this isn't about the way I look at all. This is like so much deeper than that. And what exercise provides me with is also so much deeper than physical. It is, and I say this to people all the time, for me, exercise is what I need to set me up for my day. It clears me mentally. It gives me an emotional baseline. I can get out what I need to do, that energy. And even within that, I've realized that there's times where I feel more energetic and there's times where I feel far less energetic. But in terms of actioning it, I guess you could say, okay, the gym was something that you were doing the work. But what I realized from going to the gym is that it's opened up other areas of my life where there's more work to do. So for example, why do I emotionally eat so much? What's going on there? And that would have never been a thing if I didn't start actioning exercise, realizing how much my mental and emotional health rely on that and what else is within that. And I think the really good thing is when you can start actioning even the smallest things like exercising, you realize really quickly that so when I'm not exercising, how I'm feeling. So I think the more you action that work, when it's not happening, you feel really stagnant, and that's when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because then you realize, okay, I know what's working for me. That works for me, and when I'm not doing it, I'm falling back.
Exactly.
And so that's just one very little example that I thought exercise would be good for how I look, how I feel, but it was so much deeper, but it's so required for me, and I never thought I would get out of it what I did. But again, like you say, one layer or one action works, but then it opens up different, not issues, but
well, I would say sometimes it can be pain points.
Yes.
And other times it can be ways of being that may not be serving you.
Yeah, that's right.
And so where we talk about doing the work, the work is having the tools to be able not to punish yourself when you see that and use it as an invitation.
Definitely.
An invitation to go deeper.
Yeah, that's right.
And as women, we go deeper.
Yeah.
That's normal. That's who we are. That's how we work.
Yeah.
We're responsible for the emotional, psychic, energetic environment of our families and ourselves. So, of course, we're going deeper.
Yeah.
Right?
And with the gym, another thing, like what Carissa said, it's a tool for me now. I am a reactive person, so if someone comes at me, I tend to be very reactive. I've been like that my whole life. So sometimes I have to go to the gym because that's a tool for me. And then I come back much calmer and centered, and that's a really good tool.
Yeah. But would the strategy for you be, I'm not responding to that until I do this?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to pull away.
Yeah.
Because I realised that when I have been reactive, the consequences of that.
Yeah.
And when I pull away for an hour or so and come back to that situation, I liked how you said it's that zoom out. When you're in that moment, tunnel vision is like turned on, and whatever I'm feeling in here is just builds up so quickly. So that outlet or that strategy just allows me to come back down to where I need to be and react in a way that I feel is more productive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's controlling that situation rather than letting it control you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that zoom out, zoom in is really good. Like for our audience who's not seeing what we're doing, like if you had your nose pressed up against a piece of glass and you're like, what thing here? What thing? And your eyes and your nose are pressed up against the sign writing, right? If you can't see me, I look ridiculous. And you press up, I can't see anything. And then when you zoom your face out of the glass, you're like, oh, it says imagination. But when you're that close to it, you can't see anything, right? Yeah. Awesome.
Me,
what about you, Carissa? How do you know the difference between genuinely or doing the work versus consuming content and
thinking about doing the work?
I think it's just like you said, to me, it's a framework. So like I do want to acknowledge that like I feel really privileged to have been able to engage with you the way I have. But I didn't seek out counselling or therapy or, the work. I went to a couples counsellor with my husband, and then she said to me, like, we had our own individual sessions, and she said to me, like, I think a lot of what you're feeling could be addressed individually. Like, there's a lot of stuff there. I was like, all right, whatever. And she said as well, she said as well, like, I think one of the things you're craving is a deeper connection. Like, you need to be seen and just held in this, and someone to hold the space. And she actually said, like, I don't know that you're going to get that out of your husband. Well, it's actually very unlikely you're going to get that out of your husband right now. So I came to you, and it was like, that's where it all started. It was just suddenly, like you said, it became something that you have to take on. And it's like this epic journey that you're on where every day you're sort of addressing and you're seeing these things, and it's just always trying to, you know, revert back to whatever you're working on and just really trying to better yourself, I suppose. And a big thing for me that we first started with was, what were my core values, for example. And it was like, I can't remember what they were off the top of my head.
Okay.
But whatever they were, it was like, you would ask me, what are the things that make you who you are? Like, what are the foundations of you? And it was like, okay, we went da-da-da-da-da, this is what it is. And then if I looked at how I actually allocated my time and energy, it was just so confronting to see. Like, a direct example, I know we're talking about the kids and the house and all that again, but I thought, is cleaning the house one of my core values? Like, absolutely not.
Yes.
And here I am, just that's where I'm putting all my energy, or, you know, those kind of things. Rather than, it was like, if you asked me, it's like being outdoors, like playing with my kids, doing things that fill my own cup, like setting an example for them of, you know, how do I want them to be when they grow? That's how mine started. It was like, how do I want my daughters to be when they're mothers, when they're women? But then it's along the way I realized, well, hang on, I need to do this for me too. I deserve to have a happy life and good balance and to feel fulfilled. And remember that I'm not just a mum. That's a huge part of my identity. But also, like, I'm Carissa, and who am I? Like, who am I now? I don't, like, I have just immersed myself in all these things that I think I should be. So it's like, it's actually undoing that, and it's just relearning who you are, getting to know yourself again. Like, what's important to me? What do I love? I don't know anymore. Like, honestly, I don't know. So just going on the journey of that, relearning myself, getting to know myself, just reinvesting my time in, well, hang on, if I care so much about this, well, where am I making space? And that was pretty much me doing the work.
But in regards to tools, Jo, I remember you saying once, and I still use it to this day, I'm not someone who would generally ask for help or express that. I felt like that's another shameful thing. Like, if I have to be like, I can't handle this, there's something wrong with me. And I remember once you were telling me with Johnny, being at capacity and coming home and being like, I'm at like 90% capacity, where are you at? And he would be like, oh, I'm fine. And I'm like, great. I need you to take over today, or give me kind of that, I need the slowness today so that I can recharge. And then when you're at capacity, I can be here when you need. And I think that's something that I still action to this day, where I never used to verbalize that to him. That I need help, that I'm struggling. And I'm like, it's such a easy thing to do, but it's the judgment of oneself in asking that was the problem.
I think there's a disillusion we all have as women, and I can't speak for every woman, but I feel like there's a theme or a thread that runs through a lot of women where we think we need to just be able to do everything. I think that's been a narrative we've been fed.
Definitely modern society.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, when we were village women and
life was different, right? Life was different. And I know in terms of tools, talking about your capacity and also being very aware of where you're at, which is part of doing the work, is being able to do that.
Recognize it.
Absolutely. Like my own share is that I'm in my menopause journey. So my body's changing, everything's shifting. I'm abreast of it. I'm supportive of it. I know what's going on. But I had a moment where my last cycle, which is very different to what they used to be when I was in my heyday, let's call it, of normal, regular cycles, I became very emotionally wobbly, more than normal, and I identified what was going on for me because it caused conflict between me and my partner, husband. I then came to him and said, look, I just need a little bit more support from you in that time. I'm feeling really, for lack of a better word, emotionally needy.
Yeah.
And I need you just to hold a little bit more space. I need a little bit more love and a little bit more care for me because I'm challenged. And he's like, I can understand where you're coming from and I can do that for you, no problem. But he's like, can you tell me when that is? Because
my husband's the same. Johnny has turned around many times and gone, I'm not a mind reader. Like, if you just
and I've always talked to him about where my I'm in the descent, I'm coming down, I've always been very abreast of that.
Yeah.
But because my cycle has shifted, it's kind of dropped off the radar a little. And I'm needing more than what I normally would, which makes sense because, from a supportive position in terms of my body, exercise looks different when you're perimenopausal. Supplements look different. There's a different way of supporting your body. So why isn't it normal and natural to think that there'd be a different way of supporting yourself emotionally?
Yeah.
So it's really understanding that.
Yeah. We only look at the physical sometimes. And that's what I was saying with the gym. I had this physical thing in my head, but what I realised was the benefits and what was going on was on such a deeper level, emotional and mental for me. So, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
What about you, Katelyn?
How's all that landing for you, Katelyn?
I was like, there's so many things that I'm not at liberty to discuss.
Okay.
I think, we just kept touching on patterns, and we were subtly kind of saying, not saying, but breaking generational patterns.
Yeah.
And that's such a big thing, especially with the guilt and everything like that. You've both done extensive, I'd say, work with Jo, one-on-one. You did And She Thrives.
Yeah.
Do you remember any specific little moments in any of those containers with Jo that you're just like, oh my goodness, I'm doing the work? Only one.
Well, there's lots.
Yeah, lots. You want to go first? Are you sure? Yeah, there was, look, I feel like this is something that is still a very open wound for me. I haven't really delved into it too much, actually. I came into it, which was my relationship with my mum, and it started with me coming in and saying, my mum and dad separated when I was little, and my mum was the one who left the family home, and I remember saying to Jo, but that's not an issue for me. That's not an issue for me. I've got my mum now, and I was so close to my dad, and I was so lucky with my dad, and I told my dad when I got my period, it was fine. He was kind of mum and dad, and then I just, there was a moment where I came back to realizing that when I'm cleaning and making everything perfect, and the big thing was the folding, side note, but one day, Jo, I said, I think I called you or texted you, and I said, I don't think I can come. I have so much folding to do, and it was just burying me. And she said, pack it in your car. So we put it in the car and then brought it over, and we sat on the floor and we folded it together. So anyway, but folding is,
Whilst doing a session.
Yeah, whilst doing a session. And I had 6 of those baskets, and we carved them in and we folded them back out. It was amazing. So that's why I say every woman and her dog needs a Jo. But with my mum, I just remember from when I was little, because it was, I think I was about 6 when she moved out. But I just remember opening my drawers, and my clothes were always so perfect. She was just this, what I would say, and even now I'm triggering myself, but she was super mum. She always looked absolutely immaculate. The house was absolutely immaculate. I don't remember not waking up from a nap time, and the chairs every day were upside down. She'd been mopping, scrubbing. Like, my hair was just perfect. I loved my mum doing my hair, braiding my long hair. Like, we had this long blonde hair. It was just this real source of identity, and that was what I was redoing that myself. Like, I was kind of putting that out as my own idea of like what I thought I should be as the best version of a mum. So I was spending all this time making the cupboards perfect and folding everything, and it was just, I'm spending all this time. I love doing my girls' hair, and it's, you know, it's this real bonding and time that we spend together. And they also are they have a lot of identity in their hair and doing it with me and having that special time with their mum. And it was like, I think I remember you saying something like, why is that so important to you? Like, where's it come from? And I was like, I don't know. And then I was like,
damn,
and it had sort of been coming up, and it was like this. I'd been becoming aware of it, but I didn't want to say it because I felt like when I went there, you can't ungo there, you know. So it was like
it's on blast.
So I was like, I have this wound from my mum and how I missed her, and I thought, why wasn't I good enough to sort of grow up with her how I would have loved to. So that was a huge moment for me, realizing like, hang on, there is something here. And coming into it, I was so adamant that was not.
So that's the pattern recognition and the generational handing on of that.
This is, I'm being a good mum. And it was almost like, I'm being the mum that I needed or that I wanted because that's what I remembered of her. So it's like challenging that is sort of going through. In doing that, you then you can't not address the fact that there's a soreness and there's a sadness and there's a hole there. So you can stop doing the things, but it unravels that where it's like, okay, hang on, what's coming up here for me?
And how does that feel now? Like you said, that's still a process, obviously. But how do you see yourself now in that space of the mother that you want to be? Has that helped you re-identify what that is and how you show up in those spaces?
Yeah, I think it has. I think it's made me, like, it really brought awareness to the way that I show my children love and the way I show up for them in their life. This is probably how they're going to think being a mum is. This is what they'll go away. And as well, my two sons, like, this is what they're, like, if they would like to be married to a woman, that's totally up to them. But, if that comes about for them, then they're probably going to look for this too. Like, this is what this is the benchmark and this is normal. And I just thought, I would be crushed if my daughters were living that way because it's just it's not a way to live. So,
and it kind of because you went through that, it's like you know inside you don't want them to feel like that, you don't want that to happen to them. And it's the same with me when I'm with the girls. Something happens and the eldest will get upset. And I get triggered because I immediately feel how I felt in the same situation when I was little. And I go, whoa, I don't want you to feel like that. And then so I adjust what I'm doing in my parenting to make sure that she doesn't have the same outcomes as me. And so I'm like, it's as much as everybody wants to be perfect parent, you want to have the perfect childhood, I feel like we need the downs as well. 100%. Otherwise you don't know. You don't know that you're being a good mum now. Because if you never went through any of it.
Which is that awareness again.
I think it's also making sure that you don't do the pendulum swing. Like for some of us, if you had a mum that never turned up, some people go to the full pendulum swing where they become
they're all
obsessive with their children and they don't give them the space to develop. Like they become almost claustrophobic to
Yeah.
them because they're trying to
Helicopter.
give them
Yeah.
what they didn't have.
Yeah.
And it's the extreme opposite.
Yeah.
So there's a mindfulness that has to come in there where once you're doing the work, you're like, I'm not swinging all the way over there. I'm not repeating what I had here. I'm meeting myself where I am at. This is who I am with these integrative understandings, and then putting that forth to the world and creating a new language with your own motherhood rather than either repeating or going completely the other way.
Yeah. I think for me it really challenged, like, what am I actually, like, how do I say this? Realizing that I am just my own woman, I am my own self, and I don't have to be anything. Like, am I being the mum and the woman that I want to be, or am I being what I think I should be? Like, that became a huge thing. So then suddenly it opened up all this space to be like, I don't really want to be inside cleaning. I'm the kind of person who finds joy in kicking the footy and going bike riding in the afternoon. Like, I was a young mum for a reason.
Yeah.
So it opens that space to be like, I can move towards, like, back towards that, where it's like I'm looking over my shoulder going, well, you know, that's how I've always done it.
Compare.
Yeah. Or I can look forward and go, well, actually, this is what brings me joy. And so I'm just, as a woman, not as a mum, so I'm going to go do it. Like, of course we have responsibilities we have to fulfill, but if I want to go and play and I want to laugh and I want to have fun with them and, you know, just have that sense of joy and connection and freedom, well, let's do that every day of the week.
Yeah.
It's just, really challenging that.
Kristy, what was your little aha moment with Jo?
In reflection to the time I've spent with Jo, I remember...
I think too, Kristy has two really good perspectives because she did do some one-on-one work.
Yeah.
But she also did the container work with women. So there's there's another vibe that comes in with that. So...
Well, yeah, and where I'm going with this probably, from when I've done the testimonials for you, it was quite interesting watching my own testimonial actually, like from a few years ago to now, and I'm like, oh wow, like what have I gotten out of that even then? Something that was constantly raised by Jo in our sessions, and I think has helped me get to who and where I am today, is fear. We had a lot of conversations about fear, about me living in a space that was never present. It was always, if this happens, this will happen, then this will happen. And none of it was actually real. I lived so far in my head that I was predicting the future, and I didn't even know that that's where it would end up. And it would stop me from, my own experiences, and fear within that would stop me being a better mum or letting go of control in certain situations and how I managed that, my own experiences as a child and things that I went through and still to this day I'm working on, but fear for my own children and how I should protect them, which can be hard because I felt like sometimes I wasn't protected. And beyond that with my children, so I don't think I could have been how I am with my children today if we didn't dive into this and how I can step back and relinquish a bit of control and how that does actually benefit them. But for myself as well, fear for myself of doing new things or being unapologetically me and allowing myself to discover who I am without any consequence, like of how people looked at me or judged me, what the outside people thought of me. And it was always fear-based for me. So many of my issues in life have been fear-based. Starting my marketing business, massive fear around that. But Jo has given me the tools to assess and reflect on myself and know I don't have to hold that for myself. I can let that go and I can have the consequences, and it's okay. It's okay to make a mistake. I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what the future holds. And in practicing that, so much more opportunity has come to me. It's the universal law. It's the attraction of like letting go of that fear and just not giving a fuck, whether it be, family conditioning, whether it be what other people think of me. So I think one of the biggest things which I didn't even recognize is that from a very young age, I've let fear hold on to who I thought I had to be. And this is my box, and I stay in this little box, and that's as far as it goes, rather than going, you know what, I want to try and do this, or I want to do this for my kids. And going back to the kids, I still have massive fear that how my children will look back on me one day when they're older, and that scares me. But it's that awareness again of, if I have awareness, then one, I'm recognizing there's things I want to change. I've got those tools to change it. And I think the biggest thing for me at the moment is accepting that I still will make mistakes. You know, I got upset at my son this morning. I wasn't proud of it. I got my period. You know, the guilt of I went too far. I blew up too much. It was reactive. I didn't walk away. But it's having those tools that even when you don't use them, to come back to.
And also come back to your son.
100%.
And say, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's something that I do apologize. I take accountability because even when you make a mistake as a parent, it's how you handle it after.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, that they don't see you as, you've got to be this perfect parent. But when you do make a mistake, you take accountability for it.
And you're real. You're real.
That's right. And I will explain to him, he's in year 6 and he's been learning about puberty. And he came home one day and he's like, Mum, I know what a period is. And I'm like, oh, right. So I've maintained openness. I like that because I think, like you say, but one day he might have a woman, and I want him to understand and have knowledge and be respectful of that and know how to help in those situations.
Every man came from a woman.
That's right.
Every man and woman has come from a woman. Yes, they're made together.
Right.
But each one has come from a woman.
Right.
So why wouldn't we be intimate in understanding and supporting
and
the women in the world that bring life into being?
Right. Yeah. And it's no excuse, but what I realise is often when I am reactive with my children, it's more about what's going on in my own world than what's going on with them. And I guess I'm still trying to...
Well, you're not trying, you're
doing. No, I am doing the work and I'm recognising that the guilt I carry in those moments, I've still got to let some of that go because it's okay.
Yeah.
It's, but it's fear. It's been...
Yeah, that's the big one for you.
Yeah, big. And it's given me a lot of opportunity now.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of things. I carry a lot of what I call imposter syndrome, where I feel like I could be this person or I am this person, and everyone else is like, you should do this, you're so good at that, but you don't see that in yourself, or you don't recognize it, or there's fear around exploring that, and even other people can see it, but you can't see it, and that's been a big thing for me. So I've just kind of gone all in now.
Yeah,
but,
chips are on the table.
But in saying that, this is what I mean. This is a tool and strategy or a pain point that was recognised 3-4 years ago, and I'm still working through it. But where I am now, I guarantee you wouldn't have existed without Joe in that space, and with the other women.
Without you too.
Yes, and if you want to go into the women workshop and courses that I did, I had a massive fear of being around women.
Yeah, that was a big thing for you.
I went to an all-girls high school, and I had a lot going on in high school, and I experienced a few different situations that put me off girls
and
for a long
time. And our mother wounding, right? The mother wounding 100%. Comes in huge when we go into women's
and
containers. Because we've all been in women's groups or containers that can be very toxic.
Yes. Yeah. And so that, again, was so even when Joe was like, hey, have you considered, and she thrives, the fear around that was a lot because I hadn't put myself in that space of vulnerability or trust, I think, with other girls. But I have a lot more friends that are women now in the last year, and it's freaking amazing. I love it. And I guess you get to a point where you can pick and choose, and you know you know who you bond with and not, but the trust and the fear is a lot different to how it was a few years ago. So that's nice. Yeah.
I love how deep we've dived into this topic today. Like, super deep.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're being really vulnerable.
Yeah, and real. Like, doing the work, it's not just about awareness, but what we, like, interrupt, what patterns we interrupt, what we implement, what we're, like, intentionally changing, but then also, like, identifying what we're unintentionally changing for good.
Yeah.
So, Jo, what's your final little nugget for us?
You know, the nugget is the work looks different in lots of different places. So that's a good disclaimer for everyone, I think, to begin with. And starting the work in one place can be the catalyst for doing it in another, as Carissa sort of pointed out and Kristy pointed out in different spaces. So I think it's recognising what you are doing. It's recognising where you are turning up, where changes are happening, bearing witness to that for yourself. At the end of each podcast, I like to finish with a quality question, something to invoke deep thought, or, you know, so maybe today the question isn't, are you doing the work? Maybe it's, where am I choosing comfort over growth? So my last nugget or question for these lovely ladies, all three of you, before we finish up today, is, I'm going to say it two ways. The first way would be, what was the catalyst to get you to start the work? Or what would you say to a woman who's sitting at the threshold of, or maybe even listening to this podcast going, okay, so I know what the work is now, what do I do next?
Well, for me, I felt like there was this version of me when I was a child that felt like super confident and knew what I liked and was more free, and then kind of life happened and I was sitting there feeling like I knew myself more as a child than I did as an adult. Why? And wanting to connect back to, I guess, the core of what you say of myself, because I was confident and I did know what I liked, and kind of I didn't know any of that anymore. And I wanted to reconnect with that as a woman.
Yes.
Now, as an adult. So I always had this thing where I was like, oh, school captain, I was, you know, a state runner, I was on the debating team. Like, I was filled with all this confidence and knowing who I wanted and what I loved. And I did. Identity. And I lost that identity through situations that I felt were out of my control. And I didn't know how to tap back into that. And I think I was just living day to day with this conditioned belief of who I meant to be, but none of it felt right. None of it felt like me. So I kind of had to start back at the beginning again internally and go back to that space and how I can re-identify myself or bring that identity back into my current life. But that obviously meant addressing a lot of shit.
Was there a straw that broke the camel's back moment, or was there just a natural, like, I need to go this way?
I think it was a build-up of feeling like I was trying to do the work and had the knowledge, but I didn't know how to implement it. I was like, I know I should be like this, or I know I can be more like this. And this is where I'm maybe coming back to the child thing. Yeah. I know I have the potential, but I don't know how to tap back into that. Yeah. It was like, I'm here, this is where I want to be. I know I can get there, but that bridge, I didn't know how to cross that bridge. Yep. Okay. And that's where I needed help. And life circumstances around me at the time were intense. And that kind of started within my marriage and my relationship as well. But there's a lot of underlying stuff, but it just got to a point of like...
A critical mass point?
Correct. Something has got to change. And I'm pretty sure...
Carissa? No,
I contacted a couples therapist and was sent to Jo. So when you said that, I was like, interesting. So there was stuff going on in my own world that kind of was hitting a peak, and it was like, hey, maybe don't start there, maybe start with yourself, and that was probably the right thing to do. So
Probably, or it was?
it was definitely the right thing to do. So yeah, it's there's always kind of you get to a point.
So
Either
for
rock
you, it
bottom
was a
or,
critical mass point.
it was,
Yeah.
I just felt like I didn't know where I was going to end up.
Yeah.
Like, that's where, honestly, I didn't know it, the way my coping mechanisms were so toxic
Yeah.
that I have none of those coping mechanisms anymore, which is crazy to think. It's amazing.
Yeah,
but that person there would have dealt with life and was prepared to deal with life in a far more negative way than the person I am today. And that's why I say I look back on myself like in that sense of a girl, because when I did my course with you, I feel so much younger there, but it's the progress of, wow.
It's the wise woman.
And how I thought how much I had learned even then, but it's not until sometimes years later that this stuff actually starts turning up and you know, the ball's rolling and you're seeing the benefits.
Yeah.
But then obviously, like you said, there's always more to delve into from that. But there's never kind of a peak.
Yeah, that's just always expanding.
Well, that's
Continue
just
to
life.
just expand and
Life's
grow.
just different chapters.
Yeah. Seasons.
Yeah.
No, I think you got it.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you,
Just
Carissa?
checking.
I think I just got to. Has anyone seen a video of like someone that's going down the hill on a scooter or a bike or something, and then they get the death wobbles and they're like, they're just holding on for dear life? That's how I felt every day. Like, it was not just like my nervous
Surviving,
system,
not thriving, right?
just like holding on for dear life. And it was like, it got to a point where I was asking myself questions like, is there more than this? Like, there has, is this it? There has to be more to life than this. And when you start asking yourself questions like that,
You start getting answers.
yeah, you're in some pretty dark territory. No, honestly. And I think a lot of my own issues seeped into my relationship, into my marriage, and like that's a whole thing.
It's a whole nother
that's a whole
subject.
thing. But it was just like I actually at the time had left my husband.
Yeah.
And so that was just that was a really hard decision to make, and it was things were just really hard at that point in time. And then it was like I guess that was the catalyst where I was like,
I might literally had the word catalyst. I was like, in a
something
way,
had to change.
Yeah.
Something had to change. I couldn't. You can only live in such. Is misalignment a word?
Yeah.
You can only live in misalignment for so long.
Yeah.
And so it just came to that point where I just thought, not that I can't do this anymore, but I won't do this anymore. So I wasn't sure what the answers were, but I was like, I'm ready to look.
Yeah.
So we went to the couples counselling, and like while that had its that has its purpose and its space, definitely my own personal relationship has we've reconciled. Like my own relationship has improved in so many ways just from me doing my own work. So that was a really big thing. Like I said, there's a time and a place, and we definitely benefit from it, but I find that our relationship deepened and benefited a lot more from me doing my own work.
Yeah. And doing the work isn't always glamorous. You're in the trenches, right? You're in the trenches. You've got the ugly cry going on sometimes, you know.
Like what Krista said, once you say something out loud or you question it, you can't take it back.
Yeah.
And once it's there, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And you either got to like deal with it or I don't know, it just ends up very bad.
I think
Toxic.
eventually, like you see, like you said, Kristy, your evolved version of you comes out over time, not in time. Some of those things seem to be quite immediate, then other things come out over time, and then the alignment that you end up living changes everything.
Yeah.
So if this conversation has stirred something within you, I do have a little tiny plug about a program I'm running called And She Rose. It might be the next step for women, or just find someone. My big advice is it doesn't have to be me. It could be anybody. Get out there and find someone. Get out there and find someone that can help you be a guide to get through where you're going, steps through into the next version of you, and help you gather the tools and the strategies and the framework that you need to move into the version of you that you feel or think is there or is evolving. So wherever you're at, start with honesty with yourself. I'll see you next time for Every Woman and Her Dog. A deep thank you to our guests today for their honesty, wisdom, and the courage to have those real conversations. If something landed for you today, don't brush that off. That pull you feel, that's your next edge calling. If you'd like to explore working with me, hit me up on my socials or on my website at joannelee.com.au. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself because you're worth it. Love, Jo.